Okay, it's 6:30 p.m. and we'll get started here tonight. I just want to welcome everybody. Tonight is our first community conversation program. The month of May has been dedicated to police and community relations. We'll be holding a series of discussions on various topics in both English and Spanish. The discussions will take place every Thursday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Participants will be able to ask questions or provide comments. If you wish to ask a question and you have joined us via the web, please use the raise your hand icon. Once called upon, you will have 2 minutes. If you wish to ask questions but have joined the meeting by calling in, you will need to press *9 in your phone keyboard to raise your hand. Your name will be called by using the last 4 digits of your phone number. You will need to dial *6 to unmute yourself, and you will have 2 minutes. Please know that the city reserves the right to disconnect your participation if the comments become offensive or foul language is used. Erica Herrera will introduce our interpreters from Just Communities. They have a few words before I introduce tonight's speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Rowlands. Good evening, everyone. We have the group of Just Communities to provide interpretation, and they're going to do a brief summary on how the interpretation feature works. I would like to introduce Simone Rivadeneira to provide this information.
This is a bilingual message and will be repeated in English. Hola, mi nombre es Simone Rivadeneira. Este es un mensaje bilingüe que será repetido en inglés. Soy miembro de la Red de Justicia Lingüística de Comunidades Justas. Voy a proveer interpretación entre inglés y español para la reunión de esta noche. Un ambiente bilingüe virtual exitoso depende de todos y todas, no solamente de la intérprete. Pueden ayudar teniendo en cuenta algunos puntos. Hablen claramente para asegurar que les podemos escuchar. Hablen a un ritmo moderado, tengan cuidado de no hablar demasiado rápido, especialmente si están leyendo. Solamente debe hablar una persona a la vez. Hablen en el idioma en el que se sientan más cómodos y cómodas. Pedimos que las personas bilingües no cambien de un idioma a otro debido a las limitaciones de la tecnología con la que estamos trabajando. En un momento, la anfitriona activará la función de interpretación y en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla podrá seleccionar el idioma en el que desea escuchar la presentación, en inglés o español. Esto le permitirá escuchar cuando los oradores hablen en ambos idiomas, pero en el idioma de su preferencia. Si estás en un teléfono o en una tableta, necesitas encontrar el menú de 3 puntos y seleccionar Interpretación de idiomas. Hello, my name is Simone Rivadeneira. I'm representing the Just Communities Language Justice Network. I will be providing interpretation between English and Spanish for today's presentation. A successful virtual bilingual environment depends on all of us, not just the interpreter. You can help by keeping a few things in mind. Speak clearly to ensure we can hear you. Speak at a moderate pace. Please be careful not to speak too fast, especially if you are reading. Only one person should speak at a time. Speak in whichever language you feel most comfortable. We ask that bilingual folks don't switch from one language to the other in the middle of a sentence due to the limitations of the technology we are working with. In a moment, the host will turn on the interpretation feature, and at the bottom right corner of your screen, you will be able to select the language you want to hear the meeting in, English or Spanish. This will allow you to hear when speakers of both languages talk, but in your language of preference. If you are not bilingual, please select a language. If you are bilingual, then you don't need to select one. If you are on a phone or tablet, you need to find the three-dot menu and select language interpretation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So for tonight's discussion, we will cover training and recruitment standards. I want to introduce Under Sheriff Monica McGrath, who was a former chief in Fillmore, and also our current chief, Captain Garo Karigian. Under Sheriff, it is all yours now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dave Rowlands. It's a pleasure to be speaking to everybody tonight. First and foremost, good evening, and thank you for tuning in on learning more about the Ventura County Sheriff's Office with recruitment, hiring, and training. It's interesting that I got this topic because I was a recruit training officer in our academy, and I was in charge of hiring as a sergeant, over 10 years ago, well, actually 15
Sorry,
years ago.
the interpretation feature hasn't been turned on yet. Or I haven't been assigned interpreter. So hold on one second. Sorry.
Sure, that's okay.
I'm adding it right now. For some reason, I added you earlier and it said that you weren't joined. So let me re-add you.
Mm-hmm.
You should be assigned now.
It's not assigned yet. The feature is on, but I haven't been given the role of interpreter.
One second. Did you log in with your Gmail?
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm showing you as the interpreter on my end. I just re-added you again.
Do you want to turn it back on?
Sure. Okay, it's on.
No. Do you want to make me the host for a minute and then I can give it back to you?
Okay. Perfect. Okay, we should be good to start. Sorry about that.
That's okay. You ready to go?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. And thank you, City Manager Dave Rollins, for inviting me tonight to speak about our Sheriff's Office, Fillmore Police Department, and our recruit training and hiring standards. What's interesting is I was glad I got this topic because I used to be a recruit training officer in our academy, and I was also in charge of hiring as a sergeant over 15 years ago. So this topic is right up my alley. So thank you so much. Just a little bit about me. First and foremost, I've been in law enforcement since 1987. And was appointed as the under Sheriff Bill Ayub in November of 2018. And I was your former police chief from April 2011 through February 2014. After I worked in Fillmore, I was fortunate to get promoted to commander. And at that time, I was recognized by then Sheriff Dean for the good work I did in the city of Fillmore and in the whole Santa Clara Valley. So to this day, I really continue to keep in touch with many people in the city of Fillmore and in the Valley, because I truly cherish those relationships, and that portion of my career in Fillmore is very special to me. So thank you for allowing me to speak tonight on behalf of the Sheriff's Office. So first and foremost, recruiting and hiring the best possible candidate. What does that mean, and how does that impact us as an agency? And the goal in this is basically we have to hire those that really represent the community in the most fair and equitable manner. And that can be hard. So we've got some recruiting strategies online. And one of them, we actually have a website, www.applyventurasheriff.org, where we have a video of our recruitment and our academy cadets, and you can see the varying ethnicities and races and genders participating in the academy program. So that you can take a look at, but also we encourage to apply.
Excuse me, Monica.
Yes.
Can you please slow down just a little bit so the interpreters can pick up your speech?
Sure, absolutely. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. When we try to recruit people, we try to demonstrate that we are encouraging all people to apply from a variety of backgrounds. Personally, I came from a sports and academic background from the East Coast, and the career in law enforcement was really actually very open to me because of that teamwork and that camaraderie that comes with the team environment that I grew up in. So looking at the Sheriff's Office, I was a business major. I didn't think police work was up my alley, but it truly ended up being just the type of career I would love to be and do, and I've been fairly successful. Also, we look for people that have a proven work ethic and a moral compass that they have usually the best chances of success. And that's not an easy endeavor on any level or for anybody, any business, but that is a crucial component to what we look for hiring. One of the things we did in the last few years, prior to COVID, of course, we partnered with Pepperdine University and their business marketing school to look at their students actually did a project to help us doing better marketing materials for a greater, broader pool of applicants, to emphasize diversity, to emphasize the strength of the community, etc. So they did a great job with us, and we're hoping to continue that actually after COVID and things open up more. When we do have a recruitment team that goes out into the community, we like to have a diverse group. So that means our team of recruiting deputies really needs to, we need to have Caucasians, we need to have African Americans, Latino, Asian. We feel the best way we can represent our agency is to be more like our community. So if we don't represent that diversity in our community, it doesn't bode well in the long run. So we've actually been doing quite well in that area. When it comes to hiring females, it's not just for operational needs of our jails, but also to demonstrate to women that they can do the job of their counterpart as a male. I'm a perfect example. Like I said, I grew up in a sports background, academic, and I really think the balance of both men and women working in the field of law enforcement we complement each other basically on calls for service, where our experiences in life really are necessary for both male and female to work together and to make sure we answer calls for service appropriately and also have that background so we can come to a solution perhaps. For example, I am the first female undersheriff of our county, and it's the highest rank a female has ever made it in our county. And I'm very grateful for all the work and all the support I've had on the way up, but I do realize what my weaknesses are and what my strengths are. So that's very important to know when you're going through and you're looking about a career in law enforcement. What is really dear to your heart, and what do you want to do in the future? So I was very, very blessed to have a career and have those around me that supported me. But also, in order to be successful, you need to put in 100% effort all of the time. So that's also another biggie. And targeting diverse communities around California, we visit military bases. They bring that unique lifestyle because many military bases have people from around the country. We also visit college campuses and seeing what they have to offer. Once again, another diverse sector to get recruits from. And talking about the colleges, right before COVID, myself and another female sergeant, we both have athletic backgrounds. We decided, let's try to talk to the athletic directors at Cal Lutheran, for example, and see if we can get at least 5 minutes with their team's practices and see if we can educate people on the career in law enforcement. And not just the sworn applicant, we're also looking at opportunities for our business office. We need accountants. We're also looking at technicians and lab techs and scientists for our crime lab. So it's really important that we see the broader picture of recruiting, not just for the sworn, because we have 1,250 employees and over 450 are professional staff, the ones I just mentioned. So another hurdle we had to obviously look at this year in recruiting is the COVID pandemic. So things changed a little bit for us, but we found that modifying our application process, it allowed us to do an online process, which a lot of people today would prefer that. They don't have to take off time from work. They don't have to drive, etc. So this seems to be more of the modern way of an applicant job search. And it seems like it's emerging industry standard. So we did go that route along with other agencies in our county that did that same thing. And we have found that we actually got a decent amount of applicants from around the state and the surrounding counties. So that was very encouraging. When we do the online testing at home, we have it secured, it's monitored, but also for those that want to have the in-person test, we do have that capability. So we wanted to keep the numbers small, obviously for COVID reasons. So some of the recent stats that I can give you from 2019, for example, we got 2,650 applications submitted. Roughly 2,300 were invited to the written and physical agility. 977 actually took the test. 591 passed the written and physical agility and placed on the eligibility list. From that number, 226 were invited to an interview. 139 placed in the background. 52 were hired. And that's about 2% of that starting total. But who will actually graduate at the end of the 20-week program will be a little over 1%. So that's quite a number that's whittled down to a very small percentage. It's generally between 1 to 1.2% of total applicants actually make it through the academy and actually graduate. So tough program, but very worth it. We have a current academy class going on right now, and I'll give you the just an overview. We have 9 female cadets in there. It's 45%. Hispanic 10, Caucasian 6, Filipino 5, and others 15%. So I think that's one of our most diverse classes we have in session right now. One of the large things what I love about our office is that we pride ourselves in fostering a positive relationship with the communities we serve. And I think I showed that in Fillmore too. Like I said, that it goes both ways. I really enjoyed my time in Fillmore, but it was a give and take. We supported one another, and it was a good balance. So that's something we have to look at when we want to hire a person that understands the bigger picture. We earn trust by ensuring every member of the public is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of circumstances of their encounter with our deputies. So that's a big portion of what we look at in our applicants. Our mission statement, we safeguard the lives and property of those residents in Ventura County with honesty and integrity. That's the kind of person we want to hire. That might be a tall order, but that's the goal we have. So in saying that, we have a pretty extensive background process, and only the highest quality candidates will be selected to go actually into our Ventura County Criminal Justice Training Center program, which I said is about 20 weeks now. So when you go in our academy program, we follow the California Commission on Post Officer Standards and Training, acronym is POST, in conducting all the background investigations as set forth by the State of California Government Code. Our background investigations are audited each year by Post to ensure we're meeting their high standards. So when I say that, it's I know I worked both in the hiring and in the recruitment age or the class area. Post does come in, they look at your files, making sure you're being fair in your process, etc. So we're constantly audited once a year to make sure we're up to speed with Post government regulations. So applicants go through a written and physical agility test. That includes the physical agility test includes a 99-yard obstacle run, a body drag of approximately 160 pounds, a 6-foot chain link fence climb, a 1-mile run that you need to do under 10 minutes. And only about 60% of the applicants pass the written, but 90% pass the physical agility. So that's a pretty good percentage for physical. If the applicant passes the written and physical test, an exhaustive background investigation is initiated. This includes a pre-investigative questionnaire on the applicant's financial, legal, employment, and educational background. There's also a pre-investigative interview, which consists of a written assignment and an interview with a background investigator. So we're collecting a whole lot of information about our candidates very early on. The applicant must complete, and it's about 30 pages at least, a personal history statement, which the applicant goes over with their background investigator, and it takes about 2 to 3 hours. The background investigator wants to look at all disclosures, reference if there's any arrests, financial history, debts, residence history. Their aspects in their background are very important to the whole package of the person that we hire. So we will talk to neighbors and do residence checks when a person interviews, and we'll also talk to former, obviously, employees or employers and co-workers and supervisors. When we look at the background for a new deputy sheriff, we have what we call Post 10 qualities. They're qualities that they require for us to have for an applicant to go forward. And these qualities really are basic to being a good, morally ethical person in life. So the first one is integrity. Second is impulse control, attention to safety. Absence, of course, of substance abuse or other risk-taking behavior. Stress tolerance, confronting and overcoming problems, obstacles, and adversity. How do you deal with situations? How do you deal with confrontations? Do you get angry? Are you calm? Are you a rational thinker? Interpersonal skills, decision-making and judgment. That's probably one of the biggest ones that is kind of, it's crucial, obviously, in the final work product, but there's things that we are presented with that we have sometimes just split seconds to make a decision. So decision-making and that judgment is really crucial. Also, your ability to learn and pick up new topics, new subjects, always learning as we go forward. And last but not least is communication skills. If we can't communicate the law and what we need to do, then we're no good. So communication is huge. In addition to all that, each applicant must test it with a polygraph examiner, and that lasts about 4 hours. And what that polygraph does is it's meant to reaffirm all the assertions that were made in that background packet that the applicant had submitted. So if there's an integrity issue and it comes up, we need to go over that with the polygraph and make sure that if there's a discrepancy, there potentially could be a no hire for that particular person. We also do a financial background inquiry on you for any type of credit history, bankruptcies, debt collections. This is looked at too for, we want people to be responsible for their finances and basically in living their life. Background investors will also check from other law enforcement agencies because it's common for applicants to apply to multiple areas, multiple agencies. So we want to make sure that we are consistent with other agencies on what information they garnered from those applicants. Sometimes we've done that, we find disparities, so we have to clear those up. Investigators will also conduct a home visit. They may make sure, obviously, you're living there, you're living in a well-kept residence, and also talking to your neighbors about your behavior in the neighborhood as a good neighbor. Another important part, and unfortunately we lose some people on this one, is the psychological screening process that is mandated by Post. And basically compares norms of the 16 personality factor test. I won't go into all the things, but all those areas I talked about earlier, decision making, judgment, integrity, stress tolerance, all that will be tested in this, what we call an MMPI psychological test. But once again, this is all our state regulations that we must do. Last but not least, as far as the applicant process, like I said, it's pretty intense. They're subject to a medical examination, which includes the basic exam, vision testing, hearing, and also cardiopulmonary stress treadmill test. So very, very crucial. And like I said, as a result of all of these, those applicants that have passed all that will be selected to go into the academy. And that's, like I said, 20 weeks by post. And our academy is located at the Camarillo Airport, and we're right next to the Fire Academy too. We have a fairly new building. The training is wonderful, and it's a much nicer facility. I taught in a much older building, but the resources were much smaller. We have much more room now. We've got the force option simulator that we can work on. So it really does open up our cadets' eyes on what they're getting into. So for the time an applicant is in the process and enters our academy as a deputy sheriff trainee, recurring training, and I'll get into some specifics about what they get in the academy. And it's basically the first moment you step into the academy, your training is going to continue way past those academy days. And we encourage that, and we're progressive in that, and that's what I love about our agency. But that is something that we have always been very good about, is being progressive in our training to make sure our deputies are safe and secure in their knowledge and their skill set. So when they enter the basic academy, it lasts about 6 months. It's 900 hours of training. Post doesn't require all that. We like to go above and beyond. And as a result of the training, the cadet receives 32 credits of college credits towards an associate degree in just 6 months, which is a tremendous, tremendous deal. So upon completion of the academy, every deputy transitions to our custodial facilities. We have 3, the 2 jails and our court services bureau. But prior to working in those facilities, that's a whole new ballgame, right? We just finished the police academy, uses of force, all that good stuff. Now we're going to be working in a custodial facility, a much different environment. So we need to make sure that we are in sync with what we call the Board of State Community Corrections and their training. And that's another 79 to 8 hours on topics like mental health and behavioral health, crisis intervention, crisis communication, de-escalation techniques, evidence-based programs, practices, cultural diversity, ethnic disparity, and gender identity, among others. In our jail right now, we are very, and I'll digress a minute. At least 10 years ago or so, or even longer, we've always been very concerned about de-escalation. It's the hot topic now, but we've actually been doing this a very long time with our CIT, our crisis intervention team. And it's a technique that we really promote and do it in the jail first too, so you can learn how to talk to people. Right now we have a therapeutic inmate management unit in our pretrial facility, and there's about 150 inmates in that particular section. I went to go visit that section about a month ago with the sheriff, and these are all inmates that have definite issues with mental health, behavioral health, etc. And they're in a situation where they're actually getting help from behavioral health coming in, but also making progression so they can testify in court if need be at some point, but also transitioning to the outside when they're ready to get released. So when I went in there, I watched the deputies, and it was just amazing, their communication skills, how they're interacting, because all that experience they're going to get in the jail, they can transfer when they rotate out to patrol, because we'll rotate out to patrol in 3 to 4 years after working custodial environment. And for me, especially as a woman, when I first entered the custodial environment, I found it very educational, and it helped me specifically when I went to patrol on how to talk to people, identify what drugs are. I didn't really know what they were, but I have to tell you, it was such a benefit to work in there first prior to going out to the streets. So like I said, the Deputies in the jail have a whole host of training, in-service training focused on learning through their careers, which is really quite beneficial for all involved. Let's see. Some of the training we do too, and we like I said, I was an instructor in the academy, is not only lifestyle living, healthy living, but making learning a part of your career forever. And we are required and I'll talk about in a second, we're required to continue our learning, continuous professional training throughout our careers through the time we retire, which is a great thing because things change, laws change, uses of force laws change. So we need to be up on things all the time. One of the pieces of advice I give a lot of our deputies and our sergeants and commanders is never stop learning. There's always the benefit you're going to learn something out in the field and go forward and make something better. So that to me, with our agency and many others, the progression of learning should never stop. Some of the training that we receive also, in addition to the academy training, is bias and discrimination training, and that is actually in sync with cultural diversity in our academy training class. So that's at the recruit level, which is really good. We also do a bias-based policing training every 2 years. I'm sorry, 2 hours every 5 years through a video, and that's all facilitated by POST, our government oversight. We also are required to do discriminatory harassment and review of department policy every year. Discrimination and sexual harassment prevention, we're required to do every 2 years. Also developing cultural competency and inclusion, online class every 4 hours. 4 hours in person every 2 years. And I'll add one more thing. We just started our diversity, equity, and inclusion committee with our agency about a month ago now, looking at ways that we can better not only communicate with our partners, in the field and in the jail, but also the community. Are there things that we need to learn to better communicate our goals, or there customs, or there's things that we need to learn better so we can resolve an issue rather than taking somebody to jail? That's always the plus. And that was always one of my thoughts is, if I don't have to put hands on somebody, I'm not going to. I want to do things that we can develop ways to take care of those that are law offenders in a way that's the safest for all. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's the goal. So, use of force. So, our post requires a minimum of 12 hours of training specific to use of force. However, our trainees get more because we want that. We receive over 32 hours specifically on use of force in the base academy, as well as approximately 224 hours of training on the topic. So it's quite a heavy load. Arrest and control techniques, another one, 62 hours during our basic academy, and then another 8 hours every 2 years later. So we continue that training. We also have what we call a force options simulator, 4 hours every 2 years. And I know some city council members have gone through this, and I don't know if Dave Rollins, our city manager, has done it, but he's certainly welcome to. It's an interesting simulator where it's like a shoot, don't shoot scenario, and a split-second type of decision-making, which, like I said earlier, is really important to be successful in this job, this career. But anyway, it's a neat opportunity. We've taken different groups through it to see. We've taken the grand jury through it. We've taken NAACP through it. So we're very open about what our training is and this is actually a great tool just to get you thinking of different scenarios, just driving your patrol car. Recently, the buzzword has been de-escalation. And like I said, we've taught de-escalation in different forms throughout the years, especially with crisis intervention. But because it's now the hot topic, POST requires us to have a block of instruction on it, which we do. It's a 4-hour block. And we're only one of 4 academies in the state that has already gone forward and lodged that, got it approved. So we're already in sync with the state's requirements. So that's a good thing. I talked a little bit about crisis intervention training, and this, the director of it we have it's Mark. His name is Mark Stather. He used to be a commander with Ventura Police Department. He's been kind of the core, kind of the originator, along with some of our other officers to make sure our officers and our deputies have crisis intervention training. And he started this about 20 years ago. So this is not a new concept, but what we've done over the years is we've made it better. So about 92% of all of our deputies on patrol have this training. Remember, they rotate out from the jail to patrol. So our goal is 100% trained, but we're pretty darn close to that. Why do we do crisis intervention training? And it's pretty simple. We want to reduce the intensity of a crisis, and we want to de-escalate. We also want to reduce the necessity of the use of force. Like I said earlier, it's really much better to talk somebody into handcuffs or resolve an issue versus having to put hands on. We also, especially with those that are suffering some mental health issues, we want to collaborate with our mental health partners and their families in the community and the stakeholders to make sure this person, if they're having an issue, they get a wraparound service. I recently saw a body-worn camera video from an incident in Fillmore. This is over 6 months ago, where a person was having a crisis and he was being very violent. And the mom called us and we responded. And once the deputies got there, their son, who was an adult, he immediately bust out the door and just started attacking the deputy. Both him and his partner were able to secure him. He was actually tased. He was fine. Mother was standing right next to the deputies, and they said, "Thank you for doing that," because he was breaking dishes in the entire house. We didn't know what to do with him, but he needs help. And when I watched that video, it was very eye-opening that these deputies cared, and they did not want to shoot him. They wanted to control him and get him help, and he did. And even on the video, he even shows the mom and the sister thanking us for taking their brother to go get help. So that was a good thing. So crisis intervention training includes 4 areas of mental health and development disabilities, 10-hour de-escalation through communication techniques, and 20 hours through contacting people with resources to prevent the need to take someone to jail. Like I said, our goal is not to take people to jail. Our goal is to solve problems and make sure people get help that really need it. So that's a very important thing that I've stressed for my entire career. I know the sheriff does, and we're going to be fairly soon putting out some dashboards with some use of force and the contacts we make, and I think you'll be very impressed to see the low amount of force we actually have to use on individuals. So when we get trained, like I said, we're taught to follow up and continue those training every year. We also encourage deputies to take courses, basically maybe outside their comfort zone, find something that they can perhaps have an interest in, and then continue, because we also authorize that. So if you do the mandated, we also encourage deputies to say, hey, I really want to be a traffic cop. I want to take traffic classes. I want to learn about narcotics. They can go down that route and put in for a specialized training so they can become the subject matter expert, which we all could use. So that's a very important part of our progression of training. We do have a pretty robust policy and procedures manual. It seems like it gets bigger every year, but part of our policy and procedures manual includes training that we must have on discriminatory harassment, hate crimes, conduct and ethics, bias-based policing, and use of force. So as the undersheriff and as your former chief in Fillmore, like I said, I have really grown to learn so much from the people around me and the people that support us. And then those that don't, we have to kind of come to agreement. How do we move forward? But we as an agency, and I can honestly say, we really strive to hire the brightest and the best applicants for deputy sheriff, because they're going to be patrolling your city. Yes, the process is long. It's exhaustive at times. But we have committed a long time ago through prior sheriffs that's our goal. We want to have a solid officer. And if that officer is not doing the job, we need to hold that officer accountable. And I think there's another section, another instructor that's going to talk about that. But as we move forward in our training and our careers with our deputies along in our cities and our jails, like I said, our goal is to be fair, be equitable, and understand that I don't always walk in the shoes of others. So we need to understand what shoes are they walking in, perhaps, before we make pass judgment. So we have to be open-minded, and we have to understand that people need to feel safe where they live and work. And that's really the bottom line to why I've been in this assignment or this career for over 31 years. I'm truly blessed to be here, but I'm also very honored that you asked me to speak this morning or tonight. And anyways, I'll have a copy of my report for the city manager. If anybody wants more or wants a hard copy of it, that's fine. And obviously we'll take questions, but just please know that we've come a long way throughout the years, and I think it's a good thing. And our talent is listening to you, listening to what our public wants, and to keep you safe. That's the bottom line. With that being said, I will conclude there. Thank you.
Thank you, Under Sheriff. Again, before we get into questions or comments from the participants, if you wish to ask a question and you have joined the meeting by calling in, you will need to press *9 in your phone keyboard to raise your hand. Your name will be called by using the last 4 digits of your phone number. You will need to dial *6 to unmute yourself, and you will have 2 minutes. Participants who wish to ask questions and you joined us via the web, please use the raise your hand icon. And once called upon, you will have 2 minutes. So Erica, if anybody has their hands raised or would like to ask a question or have a comment, please feel free to call on them. If there is nobody doing that, we do want to say thank you for everybody to participate in tonight's activities, but we'll see if anybody has any questions right now. Eric, you let me know if they do or not. And before we end, I have a couple other comments to say. So thanks everybody so far.
Mr. Rollins, I do have a couple of participants. I'm going to start with Patty Walker. You may go ahead and answer your question. Ask your question, sorry. Your 2 minutes are starting now.
Thank you. I was curious if other cities or if the county is holding these community conversations. I also wanted to know how many attendees were at this webinar. And you discussed the transgender issue that many areas are dealing with. Do you have a specific custodial section within the jail to deal with those individuals? And you also talked about a continuing education, and you specified different years and areas. What is the number of hours that are required or requested for continuing education on a yearly basis? And finally, you talked about the use of force training, and there's so many changes that seem to be occurring on a national scale. And you did discuss the taser issue and things of that sort. What is the level of use of force? I'm going to take it that taser would be the top or the first use of force and moving on down, but just curious if I hate to use this terminology, but does the sheriff's department use the knee?
Oh, no.
Okay.
You asked a lot of questions, Patty.
I did.
That's quite all right.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think, well, the first one you asked about is other. Am I echoing? Yeah. You asked if other cities or contract cities are doing forums. Yeah, we are in different varieties. I know Camarillo has, I believe Ojai is planning to. I don't know if Thousand Oaks is yet, but it's varied around the county. Let's see. I think you asked about, we asked about a lot of things.
The number
have-
of the participants,
we
I
have
can answer
26.
them.
I
Okay,
think we have 26 participants tonight.
that is correct.
And I think you asked also about the transgender policy in the jail. The jail is not my expertise. I know we have a policy for that particular issue, and that is Captain Garo Courageous might be able to answer that better. He worked there earlier than me. But Garo, do you have anything on that?
Yes, so we would place them in protective custody in the jail. So they would be in a spot that would be safer for them than in the general population. That's where they'd be placed in custody.
So Patty, you asked a lot of questions. I don't know if I remember all of them, but I know there was the taser use of force. We have once we publish it on our dashboard, you can see how little we use some of our uses of force with the amount of contacts we have. But I don't have that number off the top of my head exactly how many tasers. Do you have anything, Garo?
I do actually. So I can tell you that the number of use of force that we had in the city of Fillmore in 2020 was 18 for the full calendar year. Those include things like takedown would be included as a use of force. Simply pointing a taser at somebody is considered a use of force. So when the number 18 comes up, that includes things that aren't what most people would consider to be force, because you're just pointing the taser at someone. But that's a reportable use of force for us that is reviewed by the field sergeant and to make sure that's appropriate to be done. The other use of forces are things that are actually reviewed not only by the patrol captain, but also we have a use of force review committee. We also have an incident review team that's been put together to ensure that we're doing everything that we can to use the lowest amount of force necessary to do our job properly. It's something that is always at the forefront of how we conduct our business. So that's what, but the raw numbers are low comparatively. And like the undersheriff mentioned, we hope to, in about a month's period of time, have several dashboards out that'll really be interactive. So you'll be able to manipulate the city of Fillmore compared to Thousand Oaks, or the city of Camarillo versus Ojai, and the numbers of use of force and kind of what happens within the time period, and you'd manipulate that as well. So there'll be a lot of opportunity for the end user to be interactive with that process.
I think one more question was CPT hours, Garo. It's 24 still, right? Continued professional training?
So the continued professional training is broken down by specific topics. So for instance, first aid will be in a specific period of time. The use of force, continuing education is a specific period. And those are rotational based on the perishableness of that skill as related to peace officer standard and training. So I don't know if there's a specific number per year that is an overall number, but I think it's broken down per knowledge domain, if you will, per discipline.
And to add on to that too, our Academy Training Center documents and records all of our training that we take. So there's a record with us wherever assignment that we go. And if we're lacking training and they see we need it, we get an email, hey, you need to take this training, get signed up right away. So that's a nice kind of added benefit.
Okay, then we do have another question. Albert Benuelas, you have been unmuted and your 2 minutes start now.
Hi, thank you for having us here. I know you were speaking on how the officers you trained them to de-escalate within the jail system itself, and that when you were there, that you saw them and they did exceptionally well. And I would expect them to do exceptionally well when you're around. But I for my own eyes, have seen many officers instigate fights, be extremely confrontational, and be extremely aggressive to a point where they're attempting to get a response so they could react. And again, this is I would say the minority of your officers. I wouldn't say it was all of them. I would definitely say it was probably 30% of them. So that's just one point. And I know you also said 10% of Hispanic applicants is the most you ever had. But I'm curious to know how much of those 10% actually make it to be actual officers, because our community is 60 to 70% Hispanic. I mean, it's nice that you have 10% applying, and that's the most ever. But how many actually make it? You know, can we make those statistics public? I know Garo just said they have an incident report team. You know, I've gone through the process of filing complaints. They never get heard, or when they do get heard, everything gets found unproven. They won't share. They to this day they still haven't shared body cam footage. Miss McGrath, I actually left you a message on the 4th, and I still haven't got a call back. I left my name and phone number. And it's just there's a lot of different things going on within our community where our children are being
Your time is up, sir. Sorry.
Mr. Penuelos, I don't know if you heard me correctly, but the 10 Hispanic in the current academy class is actually 50%, 50. So also, and if you have a complaint or you see things that are inappropriate in the jail, there is a process to complain. I don't condone unethical or excessive use of force. Neither does Captain Gratian. So we definitely want you to file a complaint if that's the case. So that is definitely a route. But anyways, the numbers, I'll give this report to the city manager and you can get a copy. This is just the current academy class statistics. So we actually overall though, and maybe Captain Courasian can comment just on Fillmore City, we have a much larger rising population, or percentage I should say, of Hispanic officers.
Yeah, so we have a breakdown of the number of officers that we have at our station that are people of color, and that number is 39% of our staff here are people of color, and then of that, 24% of our staff here. My light just went off. I apologize. 24% of our staff are Spanish speaking, and we also have other languages that are represented that aren't part of that 24% that I'm sharing with you. So that's kind of the representation that we have here at our station, at our local station.
Okay, our next participant is Carrie Brogy. Okay, Carrie, you have been unmuted. Your 2-minute mark starts now.
Great, thank you. First of all, I just wanted to thank both you, Under Sheriff, and our Police Chief Courasian, for your service, not just to the county, but specifically to your service here to the citizens of Fillmore. So thank you very much, and I appreciate all that you do. I just had one question. You were great about explaining how once graduating from the academy, the deputies start either in one of the detention facilities or in the courts. And but can you elaborate a little bit as to how it's determined which deputies are assigned to Fillmore?
Thank you, Carrie, for your comments. I appreciate it. When deputies go into the detention setting, they fill out a form immediately upon entering their bureaus, and they put a request in for their preference. So we take the top 3 preferences, say I want to go to Fillmore as my first, I want to go to Moore Park as my second, and I want to go to Thousand Oaks as my third. So we try to accommodate those preferences when they put in for an assignment. So it doesn't always work out, but we try to do our best to get them, our deputies, where they want to go if that's their preference when they first enter detention.
Thank you. Our next participant is Luana Barajas. I have unmuted you. You have 2 minutes.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. And actually, mine is going to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Ms. Brogy just asked. I'm a long-term resident in Fillmore, and I definitely noticed a big turnover of sheriffs that we seem to have in town. And this is anecdotal, but I've even known sheriffs that work here that kind of are just waiting to get out and go somewhere else. And so I'm curious what can be done to retain long-term sheriffs that create a connection to our community here in Fillmore. My next question is, I would like more information on the mental health training that the officers receive, more specific, and I would like to recommend that more is given, especially with autistic community. My son is autistic. He has been known to become violent. If anyone ever called the police on him, I would not want him to be tased. He's young, granted, but there are many, many other options before tasing someone that is in a mental health situation. And I have to admit that that story was a bit disturbing to me. And also, my third question is, how is there training that encourages our deputies and police officers to become more involved in our communities? Because that is something that I don't really see very much as a long-term resident here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll address the tasing scenario I brought forth. That deputy was being beat up in the head. We have to protect ourselves. The tasing was very humane and got to this person. They were able to stop punching and hitting our deputy and going for his gun. So that was a very serious split-second attack on the deputy. So that use of force was extremely appropriate. He was not hurt. Mother even thanked us for getting him help because he was quite violent. On the other aspect, when you talked about we'd like to, the rotation of deputies in and out of Fillmore, we like to keep them there longer. Sometimes they promote and they test and they move on, or they want more opportunities. But I know there's a few that have stayed longer than others. Perhaps Captain Garo can comment on it, but we don't pressure them to leave, but sometimes more opportunities come up where they have advancement, but also there could be promotional opportunities. They want to get more time in their belt. And we also, when I was there too, I agree with you. I think community engagement is crucial and important to policing and to policing our community. So I know Captain Couragean is definitely on board with that aspect. So if perhaps offline you can contact him and see what else we can do with the Fillmore Police Department to have more better community engagement.
You know, one of the things that we have here, being a contract city that we service with the Sheriff's Office, there is going to be it's going to be a little bit different because deputies will be coming here that are freshly promoted, or there will be deputies that come here that come out of the jail, and this is their first patrol station. You know, I've not noticed any higher number here than at other stations. Most of the deputies that come here end up really enjoying working out here and serving the residents in our community here. And we have some pretty long-term deputies that are here, but of course, there is that opportunity for some of them that want to have a specific assignment. We don't have a motorcycle unit here, for instance, a traffic unit. We don't have a specific like narcotics unit or major crimes units. And if they want those experiences, they go somewhere else. But what I can tell you is that people that have worked in Fillmore for any length of time have a fondness for this city, and they keep coming back. Or when their opportunity is to come back here, they'll come back. They might come back with more gray hair, but they'll come back here, and they have roots to the Santa Clara Valley. One of the things that I didn't mention earlier is, of the people that are assigned to our station, about 25% of them actually live in the valley here that we serve. That's not to say those are the only deputies that are here. We have a lot of deputies that are assigned to other areas that live here in our city. These are people that coach Little League or basketball, or that you'll see walking their dog in town. Those are some of the people that are here, and we're working on increasing our community outreach efforts. That's going to be something that I'll talk about in a couple of weeks as a topic of discussion as well.
Great, thank you. Just to be mindful of time, we have 2 additional questions that we're going to be asking, and that's going to be Mr. Homero Martinez, and I believe Mr. Albert Peñuelas has an additional question. Everyone else who may have questions, please submit those to either the city manager, Mr. Dave Rowlands, or myself, Erika Herrera, and we will make sure that we send the answer to your question. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and allow Mr. Homero Martinez to speak. Your 2-minute mark starts now.
Good evening. Thank you for taking my question. And it's basically kind of like what Ms. Barajas asked. You know, we talk about building a relationship with officers, and that takes time. And what I've seen is that the officers in the committees are not here for a long period of time to build that relationship. So my question is, and when they're assigned to Fillmore, how long is that assignment? You did mention that some get promoted, but I'm wondering if there's any room where maybe we could keep some officers here to help build that relationship with the community, because we know how important that is. And the second thing is, Ms. Monica McGrath had mentioned about, you know, training on communication and how to talk to individuals and knowing who's in front of you or what's in front of you. I've had many people, you know, share their stories with me about how, you know, when they get approached or stopped, the first thing that comes out of the officer's mouth is, "Are you on probation? You know, are you a gang member? Are you on drugs?" And if they respond no, they continue with the same thing. So I don't want to go back, but I just want to bring that to the attention to see how can we change that practice or that mentality with a different approach, where, you know, maybe it's a Friday evening, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, I mean, every approach is going to be different, but just more warming, more trying to get to know each other, you know, and if someone's doing something wrong, absolutely, you know, the officer is going to do what they need to do. So thank you for taking my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez, and point well taken. And I'll have Captain Garro talk about the interactions with his officers, but also, yeah, it would be nice for officers to stay longer. I just don't have control over that. That's the part of being a contract, but usually some officers maybe stay 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. I don't know the average off the top of my head, but I know there's some that stay very long. And I do agree with you with the rotation of officers, or deputies rather. It does make it difficult to know your community, and that's what we're trying to stress, right? Know your community, know your people, and know what their needs are. So that is a definitely point well taken, and I think we could improve on that. And then Captain Garra, if you want to comment.
Yeah, so one of the things, actually, many of our deputies that are here, even once they get promoted, they end up wanting to come back to Fillmore because they enjoy working out here so much. So that rotation, they may leave for a little bit of time, but then they'll come back as a senior deputy or as a sergeant coming back to our station. In regards to what you said regarding our interaction with the public, I agree with you. I think that you get a lot more with sugar than you do with lemon, right? And my expectation of the deputies that work here is to treat the people they interact with as if though they're a family member. In other words, like, how would they want their family member to be treated if they were contacted by law enforcement? There are going to be times when we are judged based on the outcome as opposed to the process. That's not, there's nothing I can do about that assessment. But I think it's more important that the process be proper, and then the outcome is going to be what the outcome is. But as long as they're treating people with dignity and respect, the way that they would want their family member to be treated, that's what my expectation is. And if they're not meeting that expectation, then that's something that I address with them, or I'll have my sergeants address with them. But that's absolutely the way that we build bonds with the community that we serve.
Thank you. And our last person with questions, we're gonna return back to Albert Peñuelas. Albert, I'm gonna set the timer again, 2 minutes, okay?
So to piggyback on what was just said before, even Mr. Garro just said, dignity, respect, and the process. And what the last person said, the very first thing they ask is, are you a gang member? Are you on probation? Do you have warrants? Do you have a weapon? These are the type of questions that your senior training officer, while training two other officers, your senior officer Sperber, while training two other officers, these are the line of questions that they asked my 12-year-old son. Not on probation, not on parole, nothing. And as soon as they pulled him over, are you a gang member? Do you have, like, very aggressively? And he was training two other officers. This is how he trains other officers. Again, I went up to Mr. Garro, I filed my complaint. Him and Mr. Rowland were nice enough to meet with me, but to this day, I still never got that body cam footage. They had many excuses of why I can't get that footage, but they want me to trust what they said, you know. But the way they were training those officers was completely inappropriate. My son is traumatized. Every single time he sees that officer, he wants to bolt the other way. He goes, I haven't done nothing, but I'm afraid now. So this is what the type of your training officers are having the impact on the kids in our community. They are labeling them gang members, probation, for no reason. 12-year-olds. There was no cause on them. They admit that. They said that they were preventing crime because there was tagging in town. That's not the way I want our officers in town to be. Mr. Garro, you know, I've asked you for that footage before. You know, I hope I get to see it now. Miss Monica, I left in my phone number and a message of the 4th. You know, I hope I get to hear from you. I hope we can work this together to make our community better, to make it safer for our children, so our children don't have to fear the police. They can come up to them. You know, you have a lot of good cops. You know, you have Robert Medina that works at the Thousand Oaks office. He's an amazing man. One of the greatest cops I've ever met. You know, I'm not trying to bash police, but we don't need cops calling our children gang members, probation, and warrants. Yes, I will get angry, and yes, I will get emotional. These are our kids. These are our kids, and adults shouldn't be speaking to them that way, especially not a senior officer while
Mr.
training other
Peñuelas,
officers.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but your 2-minute mark is done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peñuelas, for your comments. I agree. We shouldn't be having a adversarial relationship with our community, and if there's something inappropriate, we do take action. And if there's something inappropriate done in that case, our internal affairs, I understand, investigated it. So with that being said, I'm hoping in the future that you know, we are moving forward and that doesn't happen again to your son. I don't know the incident, so I'll let Garro comment any further. But at this point, I don't have anything more to tell you other than I am hopeful and praying that our officers continue to be professional. And when you mentioned Officer Medina, yes, he's an awesome officer as well as many others. So thank you for that comment.
No, I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Penuelos about this, and I guess my explanation didn't suffice, but at this point, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on it. So that's all that I have at this point.
Well, let me thank both of you tonight for your discussion, answering the questions from the public. I would like to thank the public for answering your questions. I think one of the things we're going to be looking to do moving forward is looking to expand the time here at the end, and we'll kind of modify that moving forward as our first discussion to kind of see how this would work out. Very pleased to see the turnout, very pleased to hear the various questions, and we will continue to grow and learn from this process. We have 3 more discussions this month. Hopefully, everybody will register again. Registration is currently open for next community discussion. That will be Thursday, May 13th at 6:30 p.m. And the topic will be accountability and the complaint process with Captain Ian Laughlin. We'll also be sending information to everyone who registered for tonight's program. So hopefully you can register for that one, and also encourage your friends to attend as well. Again, also please check the website or in our social media to obtain the link to sign up. If you have questions regarding upcoming registration, please contact Erica Herrera at eherrera@fillmoreca.gov or via phone at 805-946-1712. And then just as a preview, in the month of June, we do have an additional community discussion on LGBTQ plus topics on June 10th and June 17th. And we're also planning some other activities. So we're moving forward as a community. I really want to thank everybody who came out here tonight and participated. We're learning from this. And I think the next time we'll probably add on a little bit more time for questions and answers, so we make sure everybody has an opportunity for that. We also want to make sure we stayed on time tonight. Again, thank you. Hope you all will participate again. And again, thank you, Under Sheriff McGrath and Chief Corrigian. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Thank you, everybody.